the week of all of this happening and me not even really being able to grieve like properly just because of social media. So just with the way Julia passed, like it was labeled as domestic violence, and at the time, like she just became like a poster child. Like all of these domestic violence organizations on social media started, sharing and reposting, and I just kind of felt like they were making her like as a poster child. I know it's good to bring awareness to some situations, but typically when people think domestic violence, it's like abusive relationship. And that's not something that I wanted my friend to be remembered by. And also knowing that she wasn't in a domestic violence relationship. So I'm literally going back and forth with one of the organizations on Facebook, just kindly asking them to, take their post down, not to have her affiliated with their organization. And they're just going on and on about, domestic violence and stuff like that. So I had to Google like domestic violence, and domestic violence includes current and past relationships. So even though they weren't together at the time, it was still considered domestic violence because they had a previous relationship. So even with all of that, like I learned something, but it still wasn't something that like I wanted to see or I wanted her to be labeled as. There came a point where his family was doing a GoFundMe account, but the organizer of the GoFundMe account wasn't very truthful in the story that they were putting out as far as why they wanted to raise money for the funeral. And also the media hadn't released his name. So I was annoyed, like, one, you asking for money and people don't even know what they're giving towards, and people are actually giving, and y'all have released her name and y'all haven't released his name. So just a lot of emotions bottled up, and I just started calling all of the news stations, trying to figure out like why they haven't released his name. I'm letting them know that there's a GoFundMe account out and they aren't being truthful as far as what they're the reason why they're asking for money. Like, I'm all for people raising money for whatever causes, funerals, whatever, for GoFundMe, but if you're going to ask people to donate to something, they need to know like why they're donating. Like, you have to be honest. You can't be fraudulent, and that's what that was. So I don't know, social media just became too much. Someone ended up seeing like me asking for one of the organizers of one of the domestic violence organizations to take the post down, and people were just like attacking me, like, you probably not even her friend. If you were her friend, you would want her to be recognized and all of this and so on and so forth. And I'm like, these people are crazy. Like, people will literally attack you on social media and think that they like know everything. And I just had to get off like for the remaining of the week, and the GoFundMe account ended up getting taken down. She's still being categorized, even for like anniversary and birthday, or even if someone else passes that's related to domestic violence. If they're listing a bunch of people, she's still, included in that. And I get it, but it's just still a lot to process because, like I said, she wasn't in an abusive relationship, and it's not something that, you want to have your friend remembered by. So now it's November 2016. I'm driving, and the weather had been really bad earlier in the day. I think it was like a light tornado. So I'm driving and I'm turning, and I end up driving over something. And I get out, and it literally sounds like everything that was underneath my car, muffler, transmission, all of that, it sounded like it just like fell off. So that was my breaking point. Like, I literally sat in my car and broke down in tears. Like, everything is going wrong. Like, I can't catch a break. Like, it's one thing after another, after another, after another. And it also keeps happening to be issues with my car. So remember when I moved, I had the issues with my car. I ended up having to get a new steering column. That was like $800. It was like, literally, it was something like always wrong with my car. And I had never had any issues with my car until I moved to Atlanta. So I'm like literally like just in my car crying. I had to call my best friend to like pull myself together. So earlier that month, before the accident, I had wrote in my prayer closet on my wall, praying for a check in the mail for me to be able to cover my rent for the following month, because at this point, like, I have no idea how my rent's going to get paid for December. So I'm praying for a check in the mail so that I can, 1, pay my rent, and then 2, so I can have an overflow to be able to bless somebody else. So whenever I pray for something, I always ask for an overflow, just so that I can be a blessing to somebody else. Like, God has been so gracious to me to give me a blessing. I want to be a blessing to somebody else. So that was my prayer in my prayer closet. And then literally, I think like the next week or a couple of days later, I had this car accident. So at this point, I'm not even sure if my insurance is going to cover it, because I've like driven over something in the road, and I'm like, I don't have any money to get my car fixed. If I have to pay for it out of pocket, I was thinking like, if the damage is so bad that my car is going to be total, I don't have any money to get a new car. My car isn't even paid off yet. I'm just thinking of all of this stuff. So I just prayed. I called my insurance company, let them know what happened. They ended up coming back to me with, I think it was $3,000 in damages at first. And then I think it went to like maybe $4,000 or $5,000. The final cost for damages was $7,000. I'm like, they gonna total my car out. So they're like, the total damages is $7,000. It's going to be covered under comprehensive damage and not collision, because I didn't necessarily collide into something. It's like, it's going to be covered under comprehensive, and your comprehensive deductible is $0. I was praising the Lord so hard. So I'm thankful that I didn't have a deductible, like $7,000 in damages, and I paid $0. So I remember the dealership calling me, and the lady was like, the insurance company quoted you for a used transmission. So she was like, you have cosmetic damage to your transmission. It's just scraping, but it's nothing wrong with it. It's just cosmetic. So she's like, the insurance company, they quoted you for a used transmission. And she was like, I don't really recommend that you get the used transmission, because we don't know what's going to be wrong with the used one. And we know that it's absolutely nothing wrong with the one that you have. It just has some scrapes on it. So nobody cares about the scrapes. Nobody can see underneath my car. So she was like, if you decide not to get the used transmission, then the insurance company, you'll just have that money like extra. So how much ever it is for the transmission, the insurance company will just allow you to be able to keep that money. You don't have to get the transmission replaced. And she told me how much it was, and it was the exact amount of money that I needed to pay my rent for December. I started running through my house, like running in praise. I don't know what that lady was saying after she told me that I didn't have to get a new transmission, and they were going to give me the money to keep for the transmission that the insurance company quoted me for. When I tell y'all, I was running through my house, like, you know, you go to church and somebody in a good praise and they running around the church. I was running through my house. I don't know what the lady was talking about. All I heard was, I'm getting a check for basically the same amount that I needed to pay my rent for the following month. So she's like, call the insurance company and they'll issue you the check. So I was thinking like, the insurance company is going to give me a check for $7,000, and then I'll pay the dealership the damages, and then I keep the $1,200 to be able to pay my rent. And I'm just thinking, like, I haven't been in many car accidents, but I've had a few claims where I've gotten my windshield fixed, and they've always sent the money to wherever I was getting my car fixed. I've never gotten a check written out to me. So I called the insurance company, and I'm like, yeah, the dealership said that you guys are going to issue me a check so that I can pay for the damages. And she's like, yeah. So she's like pulling up my information. I was like, how long is it going to take, for the check to be mailed out so that I can, pay the dealership for the damages? She was like, well, actually, do you have direct deposit? I said, yeah. My insurance payment comes out via direct, like you guys take it out directly each month. She was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and issue you a wire transfer to your bank account and you'll have the money in your account in 1 to 2 business days. I said, what? Again, I'm like literally shouting in praise and running through my house again. Like, I literally got paid to have a car accident. I didn't have any deductible. I got $1,200 to pay my rent. So I didn't rent a car because I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't working. I was doing Uber, and the fact that my car is in the shop, I couldn't drive. So I didn't opt to get a rental car. So a couple days later, I get a call from the insurance company, and they're like, well, since you didn't opt to get a rental car, what we would have paid for you to have the rental car, we're just going to issue that to you in a check. I said, my God. So that overflow that I asked for, that's what I got in the form of me not renting that car. When I tell y'all, I was completely blown away. And it also allowed me to see that I was just praying for a check in the mail. I didn't know. I just thought the Lord was just going to send a check like he did over the summertime. But in this particular instance, I had to go through something to get the check in the mail. So the $1,200 and the money from the rental car was the check in the mail. But really, God expedited it because they literally did a wire transfer from my account, and I literally got it the next day. So I was just outdone, like just completely outdone with just the ways that God made for me. Like, God is truly a provider. He is truly a way maker. And it helped me to also not complain when things get rough. Like, that just means like your blessing is so close. Like, you don't know how it's going to come. You could be praying for something and you are expecting it to come in a specific way, but it's going to come in a form that God wants it to come in. So I was so grateful for that. And in the midst of that, so my car was in the shop for about 2 weeks. So I'm literally at home, not doing anything. So, well, besides working on my business. So I had a goal to publish a journal, a spiritual warrior journal. And I kept putting it off. And I think one of the reasons I kept putting it off because I had told myself that when I wrote it, I would do a dedication to Julia. And just the thought of me having to sit down and write a dedication to one of your best friends who has literally passed away unexpectedly is not something that you just want to do or you're just like so eager to do. So I think that was one of the reasons why I prolonged the journal. So I was so frustrated the day of the accident that I believe it was that night or the next day, I literally sat and I wrote that journal in a night. And sometimes God will allow things to happen just to sit you down to do what you're supposed to be doing. I was supposed to have been written that journal. I was supposed to have been self-published it. But in the midst of me going through another trial and tribulation and unforeseen circumstance, it was still all for a purpose. So I was able to pay my rent. I was able to have an overflow. But in the meantime, I was able to sit and get the journal done and get the dedication done to Julia, for Julia that should have been done months ago. So just be patient. God is a patient God. We have to be patient and just trust His will, trust His plans. Like, everything is going to work out. Like, no matter what you go through, it's all going to work out for your good. It may not look like it right now, but trust me. Stay rooted in God. Stay rooted in your faith. Continue to pray for God to increase your faith, to increase your trust in Him, just for you to be led by Him, to seek Him for guidance and clarity. Just praying for confidence, like whatever it is that you need or whatever it is that you're struggling with, or whatever it is that you want God to do, just stay faithful in prayer. Like, that was over 6 months, like 7-8 months of me not working and me not knowing how bills were going to get paid. Me not knowing if I'm going to be evicted in a couple weeks. Like, I didn't know, but God knows. Like, He has it all planned out already. So I know it's easy to say don't stress and don't worry, but whenever you start to feel that doubt rising up or fear rising up, just go to God in prayer and just stand on the promises that He's promised us. Like, He will never leave us or forsake us. And He did not do that. He did He did not leave me, and he was with me literally every step of the way.